Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. My name is Janie Charlot, and welcome to a new podcast episode. Today, I am talking about something called duality, also called polarity, and what does that mean in a spiritual journey or for spirituality? And it's a simple concept, but it's very, very important. And I want to kind of highlight how we actually live in a reality of duality and polarity, and how can we win at it, right? And how can we grow spiritually, and how can we really win at this duality? So, first of all, I want to read the law of polarity. And on many of our podcasts, we have talked about universal law. Universal law is so important because whether you are knowledgeable of these laws or not, they're always at play, they're always at work. And when you can master the law, or at least stay within the law, you could really create a beautiful life for yourself that you are always on the right side of the law. So I want to read the law of polarity, and it states, everything in life has an opposite. So love and fear, black and white, night and day, masculine and feminine, etc. Right? What's important to know is that these are just two sides of the same coin. These are two parts of the same wholeness, okay? Now, why is this law so important to know, and why is it important for us to somewhat master it? Okay. First of all, duality is important for you to grow into wholeness. Okay. And let me break that down a little bit. If we only really experience one extreme, we don't really know what the other extreme is. And therefore, we will only know one side of ourselves. Okay. So if all I ever experience is happiness and I never experience sadness, I won't really understand what I need to grow in, what tools, what skills that the sadness is going to bring me so that I can grow into a whole human, a whole soul. Okay. And it's important to understand that these are spiritual concepts. So it is about growing the soul. All right. Which is really the innermost part of ourselves. It's really the biggest part of ourselves. Okay. So if we only experience one extreme, we don't really understand the other extreme. And therefore, we really don't understand the wholeness of who we are. Okay. Let me give it in a relationship situation with masculine and feminine. Okay. So, and I'm talking energies. All right. Um, these are two completely polar opposite energies, masculine and feminine. And so the energies are completely different. However, this is also how we create, because the two polar opposites come together with a different energy charge to create something different, to create something new. Okay. You could think of it as well as the battery in your car. There's a positive and there's a negative. In order for that battery to generate electricity and to get your car rolling, and to get the charge going so that you can move your car, the positive and the negative have to come together and create that energy charge, that energy spark, right? So think of it in that terms as well. You have polar opposites, right? That when they are balanced, they dance, the energy dances. It never blends because they're too different. They're too different to blend. But when they come together, they could dance in a way that they keep the energy balanced. All right. So we're speaking about duality and polarity. All right. Now, and I just said that it's important to understand why we have this in our reality construct is so that we could actually grow into the wholeness of who we are as souls. Okay. So I want to just give some examples in what we experience in duality every single day, whether you are aware of it or not, right? So I just mentioned, masculine, feminine. There's also, ease and difficulty, right? If everything came easy to you, you really don't understand difficulty until you experience difficulty, right? How difficult it may be, how constantly coming at a stop every time you try to get something done or every time you try to do something. All right. So ease and difficulty. This is a big one, life and death, right? I think in our everyday, we are in the busyness of living life, but until death comes knocking at your door, you don't really understand death, right? But that's a polar opposite. That's a duality. So you almost, in order to understand life, you have to understand death too, right? Truth versus illusion, right? What is true and what is false. Every day we're faced with these choices, truth versus illusion, or truth versus what's false. Love versus fear, that's a big one. That's every day. And right now we're actually seeing so much of this manifested out into the physical world. We're seeing a lot of chaos, and a lot of times chaos comes out of being very polarized all the way on a fear pole and a fear extreme. Okay. Lack versus abundance, right? Those are two extremes. Human versus divine. So being a human man, a human woman, or being a divine spirit, right? Those are two extremes. Those are two poles, right? And then unity and versus separation. So feeling separate, feeling that you are completely separate from everybody, and that there are certain things about you that deem you separate, versus unity, right? Saying that there is something that combines us as well. So these are things that play out every day. Also, whether you choose to be a Democrat or a Republican, that is two extremes, right? The political views are different. So you choose to operate in that duality, that polarity, right? So I just want to give a few examples on how you may be participating in duality every single day of your life and not understanding the law of polarity. All right. So even if you choose to participate on one side of the fence or the other, the law of polarity states that you're still just a different side of the same coin. So it's important to understand that. All right. So I said that it's so important for us to understand duality so that we could come into our wholeness as a soul on our spiritual journey, right? So how do we win? Like, how do we overcome duality? How do we win at duality? Is how I like to term it. You win at duality by staying very balanced. You don't go to one extreme or the other. You're very balanced. And I don't view that as not necessarily taking a side, is actually seeing the whole view, is being able to understand where one side is coming from and then understanding where the other side is coming from, right? And not even participating, not taking a side or any of that, because when we participate in duality, it takes us a little bit further from another universal law, which is the law of oneness, that says that we're all interconnected, right? And so when you participate in duality, it actually takes you further from the law of oneness. So sometimes not even participating in things that require you to pick and choose sides when it comes to a huge construct of how we're living our life every day. And I mean, like, big, I'm not talking about like, okay, should I wear a pink shirt or yellow shirt? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about big separation constructs, like the Democrat Republican, right? Like literally taking sides on some of these things. And I'm not saying that you should not do those things. I'm just saying how you win at duality. Okay. You don't live in either extreme. You actually live in unity. And it's not necessarily saying that you would go for everything that one side says. It's just saying that you see the entire 360-degree view. And that takes a level of consciousness and awareness to really understand that, because you're actually transcending duality and separation and everything that separates us, because there's so much that separates us every single day, right? I just named a whole bunch of them, but there's so much. There's just so much. And a part of that whole construct of what we're living in, which is called this 3D reality, is to keep us somewhat separate. But it's also to grow you, to grow your soul, to evolve your soul, so that you could eventually make a choice, all right, between service to self or service to others. All right. So duality plays a part in that. Another way to win at duality is not to judge either force, right? You have a good balance in the two forces, and you don't judge either force, right? So let's talk about masculine and feminine. You know, men and women. It's a huge war. It's a huge separation, right? It's a huge duality. It's a huge polarity. So it's not necessarily taking sides, right? Is seeing both sides, is seeing the hurts and pains of both sides, is seeing the areas of both sides that need to be healed. And then it's seeing how can both sides overcome that and come into unity. So it's not judging either force. It's actually being able to see what needs to happen so that both sides can actually come into unity. Also, I think it's important not to label either side as good or bad. I think sometimes, just in day-to-day limited consciousness, not being in present moments, we tend to label things, label people, label situations as good or bad. Oh, they're doing that, that's bad. Oh, they're doing that, that's really good, right? Because that's all relative, which that's a whole nother law, the law of relativity, right? So I think it's so important not to label anything as good or bad. All right. That's how you win at duality. So that's really all I wanted to say. I had gotten a question about duality and polarity, and I thought, hey, this might be a really good opportunity for everyone to kind of grow from this, because it's actually very, very important. And you could probably sit right now and name off so many things in your daily life that actually puts you in a construct of duality, of extreme poles, and feeling like you have to pick and choose one side. But there is a middle path, and that path is balancing these two forces of energy and staying in the middle and not becoming too extreme. Because I always tell people, you could balance light and dark. Eventually you're going to have to make a decision, right? But if you dabble into one extreme or the other, it's going to be hard for you to come back to neutrality if you go too far to one extreme. And let me give you an example, right? Let me give you an example of, too far to the light and then too far to the darkness. So what I mean by too far in the light is that you build a spiritual belief system that leaves you of no earthly good, if that makes sense, right? The spiritual beliefs or the religious beliefs are the constructs that you have built in the realm of spirituality does not deem you any earthly good. So because you have built these constructs so far on the spiritual side, you can't help anybody on the human earth, right? And I think we have to balance that. You can't be so far spiritual that you're not even helping the people who you're supposed to be bridging over and helping to cross the bridge, right? So that's kind of too far in the light, and that type of mentality could literally blind some people. It could be too much where you can't help anyone, right? Because your awareness, your consciousness have gone too far religious or spiritual that you can't come down and help people on just a practical, easy level way. Okay. And then too far to the dark, that the darkness has completely engulfed you. You're doing things that are not you. People don't recognize you. Your light has completely dimmed itself. I mean, it has gone out, right? You've gotten into things that have pulled you so far into the darkness that you don't even recognize yourself, right? And that all brings me back to another law, the law of vibration, which says that everything in the universe, every single piece of matter is vibrating, right? Even my mouse right here it may appear solid, but it's actually vibrating. And even our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are vibrating. And they all have a frequency of vibration. And when we vibrate our thoughts, we attract more thoughts like it to ourselves because we are all interconnected with everything else in the universe. So that's why your dominant thoughts, the more dominant thoughts you have, the more that will be drawn to you. So an example of that in duality is if my dominant thoughts is fear, 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 or hate, 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 right? Those are my dominant thoughts. Those are my dominant feelings. And those are the actions I take. I'm going to draw everything and everyone to me that have those same fear and hate thoughts, right? And then I'm going to get connected cosmically to everything that have those same thoughts because we are all interconnected, all right? From the law of oneness. So that's duality and polarity. I hope that's clear. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. But duality and polarity, and you could really win at this. You really want to transcend it so you can come into unity consciousness and understand that everybody's on a soul journey, and some people are experiencing the dark side of themselves. Some people are experiencing the light. Some people are going back and forth. Some people are wobbly. But the point is not to judge those people, to balance the two forces, to understand that these two forces are actually needed to create in life, right? So that's all I have, guys. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My name is Janie. This has been another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. And this podcast is inspired to connect our hearts with our minds for perfect alignment and to awaken humanity to everything that is already within. And guys, we have our Creating Harmony Within Masterclass next Saturday. Okay, September 16th is completely online. You could register, even if you can't make it, you can register and watch it later because we will have the link available for 30 days if you cannot attend on September 16th. And that's it, guys. Until next time, lots of love and lots of light. Take care.